Yes, sir. What's going on, you guys? We are back again on another Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And my mic is actually working today, so I'm excited. But this is Elite Performance with Dr. Brad, the show where high-achieving men come to do three things: prioritize their faith, maximize their performance, and pursue their purpose. I'm your host, Dr. Brad, and I'm a performance coach for men. You're probably asking, like, what is a performance coach for men? Well, I focus on helping high-achieving professional men optimize their performance so they can succeed at work and win in life. And so this show provides the perfect combination of both faith-based and peak performance principles and strategies in order for you, that high-achieving man who's driven to be able to achieve at a high level in multiple areas of life, to be able to succeed at work and win in life. And so I'm gonna give you this opportunity. If you're just hopping on, to go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and share this information. I truly believe that this information that I share is extremely valuable. Why? Because it was life-changing for me. It was life-changing for me. It's been life-changing for many of my clients. And this is information that I think sometimes many of us know, but we don't know how to apply. And then for some of us, this is information that we did not know. And sometimes it's just a big aha moment for us to be able to flip the switch, or to be able to get us to that next level, because some of us are stuck. We're trying to just get to that next level. And sometimes it's information that can help get us there. Sometimes it's curriculum that can get us there. Sometimes it's coaching that can get us there. Sometimes it's a talk and having community that can get us there. You like how I got that alliterative kind of pastoral pastoral thing going on with the curriculum, coaching, and the community. But here's the deal. Those are the three things that I saw accelerated results for me. But as always, again, I want to welcome those of you who are on for the first time. For those of you who are kind of regular watchers, we appreciate it. Listen, if you're watching this on Facebook, awesome. If you have yet to subscribe to the Dr. Brad YouTube channel, make sure you go there, Dr. Brad Ballard YouTube channel. Just type in my name. I'll pop up. Go ahead and subscribe, because not only will you get updates on whenever this show is coming, but you will also get weekly YouTube videos that is talking about how to perform at a high level, how to win in multiple areas of life, how to pursue your purpose, how to do the things that you need in order to be the man that you're trying to be, so that you can really fulfill your greatest potential, both in work and life. And so before I bring on another great guest and good friend of mine, I'm going to talk about something that I believe we all need, which is productivity. How many people who are watching this, whether this is live or whether this is on the replay, wouldn't mind being more productive? And here's the deal. All I mean when I say productive is getting more done in less time. Getting more done in less time. How many people ever feel like it's impossible to get it all done? Anybody ever feel like it's impossible to get it all done? And listen, this is not one of those shows where you ain't gotta, engage. Listen, I want you to I want you to tell me what you think. If you would like to get more done in less time, let me know. If you ever felt like, dude, like I feel like it's impossible to get it all done. I feel like it's impossible to stay in shape, but also be making sure I'm hitting things at a high level in my career. Like, I feel like once things get better in my marriage, I feel like things are slipping at work. And it's kind of like, I don't know if you remember, kind of like old school Looney Tunes. Like, you see somebody trying to balance all the plates at once, and then, plates kind of start falling here, and you got to run and go pick it up there. And so, does life ever seem like that for you sometimes? Like, you might have one area mastered, but then you look over and it's just like, man, the plates are just falling and crashing somewhere else. Well, see, I'm the guy who believes that, first of all, I was that guy in the past. Second of all, I'm the guy who believes that you can get it all done. There was a time whenever I wasn't getting it all done, and I was winning at a high level in work, but it came at the cost of relationships, like with my wife and kids. It came at the cost of my health. And, I figured out over time how to be able to get a whole lot done in one time. So I'm going to teach you a couple principles real quick, and then we'll dive into this interview. I want you to look, if you're not taking notes, actually, this will be a good time to take notes. There are what I call 7 pillars of peak performance. And these are kind of aspects of life that we need to be aware of, pay attention to, and then be very intentional in each aspect of our life. 7 pillars of peak performance. I'll break these down real quick. Faith, your faith is a pillar. Your family is a pillar, and that family kind of breaks down into marriage and kids. And you might even be able to throw friendships in there, but faith, family, health, your health, physical fitness, your wealth, your career, and your calling, like that purpose, that thing that you were put on this earth to do, to create change and impact in the lives of other people. And then the last one would be like your personal interests or hobbies, things like, for me, that's like traveling, playing basketball, although not so much because I just turned 40. We're not going to get into that. But those are the 7 areas that we need to at least be aware of and pay attention to. So I want you first step, I want you to write those down. And then I want you to figure out, what area are you like hard pursuing right now? What area are you like going after right now? What's the area that you're like, look, this is the area that I really need to focus on right now? And then the other thing I need you to do is I need you to circle those first 2 that I said, faith and family, because those 2 need to be prioritized. I don't care which one you're going after. It could be wealth. It could be your calling. It could be your career. It could be whatever it is else, but those 2 need to have priority, meaning that they become non-negotiable on your schedule. Now, here's the deal. Each one of these areas should have an idea of how you want life in that specific pillar to look. There's no way that a life can be lived with intention without paying attention to these areas and have a vision for how you want that area of your life to look. Most of us don't know, which is why we don't have a plan for how to live out our life and actually get it all done. You can get it all done, but you got to have a plan. You got to have these pillars in place. You got to be aware of them. You got to be able to treat them with intention and pay attention to them. All right, you guys. If that's valuable for you, make sure you let somebody know about that. And here's the deal. I want you to apply it and let me know how it works for you. Hit me on an email, hit me on a reply on here on one of the shows in the future. Be like, yo, Dr. B, like that really helped me out. I'm giving you some of the nuggets that help propel me forward and many of my clients to be able to achieve at a high level in every area of life. And just so you know, the title of this show is called Elite Performance. If you see, I misspelled it on purpose because you get elite men. Where's my hand? Like you can see that right there. Elite men is there in red. Okay. The reason I call it elite men is because there's not many guys out here who are doing it at a high level in multiple areas of life and be able to experience success in work and fulfillment, who are doing it at a high level in multiple areas of life. My purpose on this life is to create a tribe, an entire army, an entire population of elite men. And it is possible. All right. Well, let's get it in, you guys. I got another great guest. This guy, let me just tell you, he and I have quickly become good friends. We are collaborating on things. He's a consummate professional. His name is Dr. Foster Exposé, and he's an industrial and organizational psychologist, extremely smart guy. Look, I like hanging out with people who are smarter than me. That's how I get it done. If I could just hang around people who are smarter than me, it just makes me look better. But this is one of those guys I like hanging around because he just makes me feel better because dude is just so smart. He's an organizational psychologist and executive coach who leverages brain science to enhance organizational effectiveness and influence change within organizations, teams, and administrative/physician executives. So he works with a lot of physicians. In addition to his diverse background, he's consulted across a wide array of industries, including Fortune 500 companies to nonprofit organizations. He is the host of a yearly conference called Men of Color, who is really empowering young Black professional men to be able to really live up to their potential and do extremely well in what they do for their work. Um, Without further ado, let me bring on my good friend, Mr. Foster, Dr. Foster Exposé. What's going on, brother?
Hey, brother, how's it going?
Man, it's going great, man. I appreciate you being on today.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
So, man, I said a lot of big words. I said a lot of, you know, a lot of things that are obviously awesome at what you do, but kind of in your own words, why don't you
Mhm.
just share with us what it is that you do day to day?
So I'm in Denver, Colorado with UC Health Health System, and my job from a system perspective is providing leadership development for three levels of leaders, from the chief medical officers, the medical directors who are over 13 different hospitals, and we have our clinics, our primary care and our urgent care clinics. Those have medical practice leads. And so my strategy over the next 3 years is to provide them levels of leadership at each level using what we call a success map. What
Mm,
are those things that we want those leaders to be able to do at different levels? And part of measuring that is cultivating a skills assessment against that success map and have them take that assessment. So I know from a baseline perspective, where is their knowledge, where is their capabilities, where are their skills? And then looking at in like 2022, who are those physicians who are showing promise as future leaders?
mm.
Using some type of science to assess their performance and creating a 9 box and have a discussion around who are those top performers. So that's a good chunk of my job. The other part is providing consulting to the system CMO and also the CMO inside the different areas, the regional CMOs, I should say. I
Hmm.
also provide leadership coaching to leaders at the medical director level or higher who need some help with maybe some challenges like maybe emotional intelligence, difficult conversations. Change management is a huge challenge for some as well. So that's what I do on a daily basis.
Gotcha. Now, I, as you're talking, I keep hearing the word leader, leadership, leader
Hmm.
development.
Hmm.
Um, I'm always intrigued by leaders, but I'd be lying if I didn't say that I'm also intrigued by the person that's coaching the leader. And you coach leaders, you coach
Yeah.
leaders to be better leaders.
Yeah.
Um, I want to just jump right into what our topic is today, man, because I've heard this word often. I'd say over the last maybe few months.
Hmm.
Not this word, but this term, emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
and it's one of those. It's one of those terms that I've never heard those terms be put together. It,
Hmm.
it, it almost is an oxymoron, right? Because
Hmm.
emotion seems to be so visceral, or just so
Hmm.
sometimes emotions are very reactive,
Yeah.
and that there may not be a lot of intelligence in emotion. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like many of
Yeah.
us, for many of us, it's just reflexive,
Hmm.
instinctive when it comes to emotions. But to be able to combine that word, that term, emotional, with intelligence, it makes me stop and think, like, man, what is this? So, won't you just kind of give us some background, or just what it is, so we can just kind of wrap our brain around that, and then we're gonna break it down here a little bit.
Sure. So Daniel Goleman is the originator or founder of the concept of emotional intelligence. And everything you described around emotions is correct. The intelligence piece is being understanding or aware of those emotions when they are happening. So
Mm.
there are four components of emotional intelligence. That's that what I talk about, that self-awareness.
Yeah, yeah. So the guys, this is the time to take notes. You about to break this thing down. So,
Yeah.
so there's four components. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and pull out this pen and pad. Four components of emotional intelligence. Go
Yes,
ahead.
that's the self-awareness. And then that's that self-regulation. How do you control those emotions? Then the next component is empathy, which is a challenge for so many people. Understanding, stepping out of myself and understanding your perspective.
Mm,
And then that last piece of emotional intelligence is social skills, being able to cultivate and grow our relationships so that you can be successful in life, in leadership, or whatever it is that you're doing. The research tells us that as we get older in life, our emotional intelligence should grow. In
mm,
theory, some people they don't move the needle on it, but it should grow.
right.
And the reality is that if you take a moment to sit and think about what are those things that can take you out of character.
Mm.
And when you're getting to that point to be taken out of character, the way to control it is what's the change in your body that you're feeling? Is it the butterflies in the stomach? Is it the increased heart rate? Is it the sweaty palms? We call it having that the medulla episode, as you know what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
That change in the body. And then before you go to the full amygdala hijacking, meaning you're saying something, doing something out of character, what is it that you're going to do to put those emotions under control? Some tips to perhaps control your breathing, bring
Right.
those emotions down,
Hmm.
maybe count to 10 in your head to get your thoughts together. If you can, remove yourself from that conversation, step out, get those feelings under control, then get back into that conversation so that you can finish it.
Now, let me ask you why some people may not be understood, but put it a better way. Why is emotional intelligence important?
Oh, so
Or, yeah, why is emotional intelligence important? Because here in a minute, I'm going to ask you, like, how can you tell that somebody may have a low emotional intelligence? Because this is measured, right? Isn't like there a measurement? So we'll get into the measurement, but like, why
mhm.
is this important? Because we got to know, like, and I want to know, like, why should I be paying attention
Okay.
to this conversation?
Let's look at it from two perspectives. Look at from a leader and from just a regular frontline employee. You're a
Okay.
physician, so let's take your medical assistant versus yourself.
Okay.
So the theory, the research shows that for an average frontline employee, what you do on a daily basis, it is 65% of emotional intelligence. You should be all day long controlling emotions and building relationships and
Mm,
self-regulating throughout the day. It's only 35% of technical knowledge, meaning your skills to get your job.
mm.
For leaders, you had a question. Let me stop.
No. You were about to say what the leaders' numbers are. I'm here interested in hear about this now.
Yeah, the leaders' numbers is 85% emotional intelligence, only 15% technical.
Mm,
Because your skills got you to that leadership job, right? That's the important piece.
hmm,
Your job all day long now is emotional intelligence. That's relationships. That's self-regulating. That's being aware of your emotions. That's being empathetic, meaning understanding someone else's perspective. Because what leaders do on a daily basis, they have meetings and they build relationships to get things done across the system, across their departments, and inside their own department. That's their job. It's the relationship piece. I mean, your knowledge about the job got you there. You're no longer in the trenches. Now it's about
mm.
the politics and the relationships. There's even research that shows, Brad, people with higher degrees of emotional intelligence make about 25 to 30% more per year than those who have less of it.
Man, now we talking. Look, fellas, if y'all ain't listening to what he just said, he said, "Look, I'm gonna paraphrase. You can make more money. You can make more money. You can you can secure the bag. Well, I ain't gonna say secure the bag, but you can make more money if you're more emotional intelligent, if you have a higher emotional intelligence. So that might just be a motivation right there. What does it look like when someone is not emotionally intelligent? Because one of the first thing you mentioned is self-awareness,
Mm,
right?
mhm, mhm,
Well, I think there's some of us who are walking around who are unaware
mm,
of how low our emotional intelligence is.
mhm.
So how can we maybe bring to light to some of the people who might be watching or listening, like, man, I didn't know that that behavior or that thought or that reaction is actually a sign of poor emotional intelligence on my part.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things, two things you could do.
Okay.
If you've got people in your immediate close circle that are going
Hmm.
to talk to you real and not give you fluff, they can
Hmm.
give you that feedback. How do I come across? Getting that clear and true feedback from a close friend or close peer is a good way of helping you increase your emotional intelligence. Two, one of the things that we need to think about is how can we start to have that self-awareness? Now, if you think about from a leader, sometimes we like, how can you even measure emotional intelligence from a leader perspective?
Right.
How can you even quantify that?
Yes.
Well, think about some leaders who have high turnover. Something's happening there.
Mm. So if there's high turnover in an organization,
Mm,
if there's high turnover on a team, sorry to
mhm,
cut you off, but like if there's high turnover,
mhm.
part of it is you got to look and be like, how much of this is me
Yeah, yeah,
causing this or influencing this in some way?
yes.
Mm.
Employees leave their boss, not organizations.
Ooh,
That's
say
the
that
reality.
again.
Employees leave their boss, not organizations. Because it could be a great organization with great benefits, but if you come to work and you treat your staff just poorly, people leave because of that. So that's one way to measure if something's happening with high turnover, what's going on with the leader?
Yes.
And if the leader has the right kind of boss above them, they're one up, giving them their annual performance review and giving them real talk, it'll show up in those numbers as well, where your scores are low because this is what's happening. I've
Mm.
talked to you about this throughout the year. Let me give you an example. I had a leader, I guess, about a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
and had an executive director that reported to him, and he was new as a new VP over this individual. Now, prior to him coming on, his boss of 20 years gave him nothing but high remarks, high remarks. But across the system, everyone knew, oh, this guy is horrible.
Hmm.
But his boss shielded him, always gave him feedback that was nice.
Right.
He got a new boss and he got a performance score of like a 1 in so
Wow.
many areas, like barely meeting expectations. He couldn't understand why. And his boss sat him down and gave him real feedback. This is what's happening.
Mm.
I'm not sure what happened prior to me being your leader, but this is what I see. And this is what your peers are saying. And this is what's happening across the system. It was a huge eye opener for the individual to understand what emotional intelligence was because he didn't have that self awareness. He
Yeah.
wasn't able to regulate his emotions in meetings. And most importantly, he was so abrasive, he didn't have the social skills to build relationships
Mm.
across the system.
Abrasive. And I'm thinking about this story from two perspectives. I'm thinking about the previous leader who never gave the feedback. And
Yeah.
I'd be lying to you, Dr. Foster, if I didn't tell you that sometimes those difficult conversations of giving feedback are a challenge for me sometimes, right?
Mhm.
But I've got to come from an angle of looking at I'm not doing someone any help. I'm not helping anybody if I'm not giving someone true feedback, if
Yeah.
I'm not being truthful with them, right? So I'm thinking about it from that first leader's perspective, like that's just not that's doing a massive disservice to the person who you're just giving feedback to
Yeah.
either because you're not acknowledging the fact that this is important or you don't want to hurt their feelings. Either way, it's not
Mhm.
helping them.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking about that person who's receiving the information for the first time ever. It's just like, wow, because many times we'll want to lash back, we'll want to be defensive. And the reality is when you get called out, it's not all bad, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's an opportunity to improve.
Mhm.
But let's keep talking about other ways that people can acknowledge how um, how this comes up, how a lack of emotional intelligence comes up. What else do you see in terms of things that come up? So you mentioned high turnover, maybe in an organization.
Mhm.
What else do you see?
Well, it also goes through that whole emperor no clothes on.
Hmm.
We see that we may report to this individual, and I know I can't talk to Dr. Brad about anything because no matter what I tell him, he's just gonna push it off to the side.
Mm.
And that kind of stuff comes up because you're going out there, you're doing your thing, not in the right way, and you're rubbing people the wrong way, but you're not creating what I like to call a brave space. And
Mm.
that means allowing your team members to be vulnerable enough to say, hey, Dr. Brad, can I get some feedback with you? You know, Giving feedback and crucial conversations is always uncomfortable for everyone.
Right.
Part of it is because we don't know how to approach the conversation. The best way to approach a conversation when it's very sensitive, when emotions are high and stakes are at play,
Hmm.
is to approach it from an inquisitive perspective.
Okay. So
So
give
if
me an
I
example.
so if I sit down with you, Brad, and say, Brad, may I share some feedback with you? say,
Yeah,
okay,
I'm
you
getting a
have,
little nervous already.
say, okay, great. Let's say in our organization, your organization, let's say the chart closure process has to be done in 48 hours,
Okay.
but you're consistently doing it around 60, 72, whatever. Now, if I came in and said, Brad, the policy is 48 hours. What's the problem with closing your charts? That
Mm,
puts you on the defensive side, right?
right.
That's more of that inquisitive, more like the Spanish Inquisition. Inquisition. I'm fighting you about this. So
I'm
first,
coming. I'm coming to battle.
yes, but if I step to you from an inquiry side, being like a 5-year-old child saying, Brad, help me understand. If the chart closes 48 hours, what's the challenge that you're having to
Mm,
closing your charts on time?
it's a lot
It's
smoother.
the same conversation as being able to deliver it in that same way. But if you take a different approach, now I've put the ownership in your lap to walk me through your narrative of why you're not closing your chart on time. And
Yes.
as you're giving that feedback to me, I'm listening for those nuggets to pull out to see where the challenges are, what you're possibly doing wrong, and then ask the questions. Well, okay, if you're not able to do it in 48 hours in your current process, is that the best way to get this done?
Mm,
So it's all about how you frame those questions for those sensitive things, but also taking it from the emotional intelligence perspective,
hmm.
giving that person respect so that they can at least defend, or not really defend, but share with you their rationale for whatever the situation is.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, so let me ask you, how do you score emotional intelligence? So you mentioned four things. I'm going to repeat them. Emotional intelligence is comprised of self-awareness,
Hmm.
self-regulation, empathy, and the social skills that you can use to now apply and build relationships. Do you get a score in each of those things
Yeah.
that comprises a score? Like, how does this work?
So there's an assessment called the EQI 2.0,
Hmm.
which is a nationally accredited and scientifically proven assessment that gives you your emotional intelligence score. And your score is assessed against the top Fortune 500 leaders across the country. So you can see where you fall into where the norms are. Anywhere between 80 and 100 is the good scoring range. And it tells you where your score is and what are some areas you can improve upon. Now, here's what's telltale. When the person receiving that feedback from that assessment, it's up to that person who's doing the debrief
Hmm.
to again position it in an inquisitive way. Help me understand why, or what are your thoughts around this? When you see their score, how does that number land for you? Looking at the feedback, oftentimes if a person comes in very much tense and upset and not wanting to receive that feedback, it's really up to that person who's doing the debrief to put them in a calm state so they can be brave enough to really dig into that content and be vulnerable enough to say, I know that I don't have self-awareness. I find
Hmm.
myself in a meeting, my octaves going 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, getting louder and louder and louder, and not being, the best person that I can be in those moments.
Sure.
And now I've got some tips on how to improve that, what I can do. Then let's have a conversation from a coaching perspective. How can I best support you? What do you want to change about this?
Yeah.
So that's the most important way to get that feedback from an EQ perspective, because most annual performance reviews don't do an assessment on EQ, but the EQI 2.0 is a good assessment that gives you that feedback of where your scores are.
And EQ being the emotional intelligence,
Emotional quotient is what they call it.
emotional quotient, as opposed to what is it, intelligence quotient, like an IQ, emotional intelligence.
Mhm.
Um, as a leader and coaching other leaders,
Mhm.
which of these four do you see is the toughest area where people struggle with in their emotional intelligence?
Self-regulation.
Really? Because I'm gonna just tell you, man,
Mhm.
self-awareness. I mean, this is, I mean, you're the expert, obviously,
Mhm.
apparently,
Mm.
but self-awareness, I feel, is like, if you're not aware, I
Mhm.
mean,
Mm.
we can't even have a conversation. Because Dr. Foster, you telling me, say I'm here to debrief someone, right?
Mhm.
And they're already pushing back on the information. I'm like, it's clear already. Like you don't have enough awareness
Mhm,
to receive the information and say, is there any truth to what he's saying?
mhm,
You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
And that's coming from someone who, I'm not saying I'm self-aware all the time. I'm much better than I was, but it's such an aha moment. But on the flip side of that, it's such an aha moment when you realize you have some self-awareness. But
Mhm.
when you don't, it is it is completely blind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because I'm
yeah,
speaking from
yeah,
both sides of the coin, man. I mean, there's been
yeah.
times when I've been completely unaware, and I'm going to take this more home, but like completely unaware that I'm talking in a certain way to my wife, completely unaware that I'm addressing my kids a certain way, like completely unaware, right?
Mhm,
But the same thing in work and business. I mean, sometimes I don't even know that I'm completely ignoring, my staff, or that the way I'm coming across is in a certain way, right?
mhm, mhm,
And on the flip side of that, there's times when I realized, I was like, wow. And I'm like, I can't believe I was doing that, like
mhm.
completely blind.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
as I'm looking at these, I keep looking at this self-awareness piece, man. So you're telling me self-regulation, because I can imagine how that could be a problem too.
yeah, yeah. The self-awareness piece, I can get you there. I can get you
Really?
there. If we have that honest conversation, I can get you there. That self-regulation piece, that behavior,
Yes.
that's the challenge because some people just take it to the 10th level about what they say, what they do, how they throw things, just that
Throw
behavior.
things, bro. You just said throw things.
Yes,
Okay, so
yes,
so
yes,
so
yes.
what are some of the toxic things that you see from a self-regulatory standpoint? Because okay, let me put it this way. What
Mhm,
I want people to see who watch this,
mhm,
I want some self-awareness to happen, to be like, dude, that's what I do, or that's what I'm not doing.
mhm.
That's why I want to kind of extract what are some of these behaviors that people are doing who are, who are not self-regulating. Some of these people who are not self-aware, so that we can kind of shine a light a little bit. Because the
Yeah,
reality is, Dr. Foster, sometimes we need that light shined on us, man, and
yeah.
being like, sometimes we need that mirror, and it's the best thing that can happen for us.
Oh, yeah.
It hurts. It hurts to look in the mirror sometimes, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Because
yeah.
guess what? The mirror, you see the blemishes. The mirror,
Yeah.
you see the problems when you really start examining. And when
Mhm,
somebody else is saying, hey, look at what I'm seeing in the mirror, look at what I'm seeing on you, it's hard. But the question you got to ask is there truth in this? And
mhm.
now that I know, what can I do about it? So I want to shine a light on some of this stuff, man. What's some of the stuff you see from a self-regulatory standpoint that people aren't doing?
I have seen people just take the moment to just best way to say it is just to crush someone's dreams or thoughts around something or
Really?
perspective, and they just get desperate. They're aware they're doing it, but they love just to smash someone's dreams. I've seen people throw books. I've seen people in meetings stand up and drop the F bomb. They don't care. This is not going to work, so on and so forth. The reality is that some of them, when I've had the conversation with them, they say, "Yeah, I felt it. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't care. I wanted to go in. I wanted to do that." So this
Wow.
exercise I use in the one-on-one coaching, I use this what I call a thought record.
Yeah.
So let's list the situation. So what is the thing that takes you out of character? Is it, I don't know, what is it? What is the button someone's hitting in you that makes you get there? Okay, what's the situation? And then what's the emotion that you're feeling at the moment?
Mhm. You try to
What?
slow it sounds like you're trying to slow down the process for them. They recognize the cue, they
Mhm,
recognize the thing that's causing the emotion, and then let's try to kind of slow things down.
mhm. And then after that, what's the behavior? What do you do? And then let's take it even further. What's the outcome? Looking back, what you just did, what's the outcome of your behavior?
That's good.
When I've done this with physicians in
Yeah.
particular, it hits home for them
Mm.
because they don't like for a dark light to be shined on them at all.
No,
And I
man.
get that. They're wonderful individuals. You're a wonderful guy. They're wonderful individuals. I don't want them to walk into situations where they are not understanding what emotional intelligence is and losing their credibility because they've done something just that quick.
But look, don't be calling me a wonderful guy. You ain't seen me in clinic yet, Dr. Foster. Like, I'm just saying, I ain't throwing books. I'm throwing needles, bro. Like, I'm throwing needles. No, no.
But you know that once you teach individuals that, whether it's a physician or whoever it is, once you walk them through their thought log, and I have the person write it out,
Ooh,
not me
thought
just
log. I
talking,
like that. Thought
write it
log. Yes,
out.
yes, yes.
And once you write it out and just look at that, the average client that I talk to, and they look at that, they say, Foster, that's just really nasty. Well, that's what you're doing.
Yes.
So let's add another column. What are you going to do different when you have that situation comes up?
And that's where we get to the social skills. That's where
Yes.
we get to some of the social skills. What can we do to now apply this stuff?
Yes.
So somebody who's emotionally intelligent, who has a high emotional intelligence, what's that look like as a leader?
I can share with you, not from a boasting or bragging perspective, but I've got a high level of EQ. And
Yeah.
let me give you an example. So about 3.5 years ago, I was in California. We were in Laguna Beach for a conference for a few days, and we were at LAX headed back home. And so once we got on the plane, I got to my row. So I'm looking, I was like on row 19. My boss was like on 25.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm getting on, she can see me as well. So I get to my row, and there's a young lady sitting in the middle seat, and her child is in a car seat in the window seat, which is my seat.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to the row. I said, "Good morning, excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you. That's my assigned seat." So she continues to tell me, "Well, the flight attendant said I can't put my child in a car seat on an aisle seat." And so I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm sure she didn't say take someone else's assigned seat.
Right, right.
So I said, okay, well, no problem. So let's just get some help. So I hit the flight attendant button. So up to my left, her husband stands up and is yelling in my ear, saying, "I'm less than a man. How you gonna kick my child out of a chair? You know, you are no kind of man at all." Just, I mean, loud, top of his lungs and all this stuff. Someone like myself who's got the high degree of emotional intelligence, I saw the big picture. I'm a black man. I'm clear across country. I'm on
Mm,
a plane, and my
mm.
boss is looking at me. Her eyes are this big. This can go south many ways
Well,
if I engage with this guy.
yes.
I stayed focused on that flight attendant. She showed up and said, "Good morning. What's the problem? How can I help?" And I shared with her what the issue was. And there he goes again, saying and yelling the same stuff. And so the flight attendant says, "Stop, sir. He's not kicking this child out of a chair. Did you buy this gentleman's ticket?" He said, "No,
Mm,
you have no rights to his seat." She said, "You got 5 of the seats. Simply move your child to another one so the gentleman can sit down in his assigned seat."
man, dude, why did my emotions start getting like, I'm like, ooh,
Brad, I tell
ooh,
you, the butterflies were just in knots in my stomach. I thought I was gonna have a heart attack because it was beating so fast.
yes.
Because I was trying to maintain that composure. What he was wanting to do was for me to hit him and say, there's that angry
Right,
guy. I
right.
wasn't engaging. Fast forward, we land back home in Dallas. I get off the plane, and guess who's waiting at the end of the runway? Pablo Personality, saying more stuff again.
Oh, wow.
I walked right past him, and then right behind me, there was an older lady that got in front of him. She said, "You are so and so. Leave that man alone. He did nothing to you."
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I won in the court of popular opinion on that flight because
yeah.
I didn't engage in his ignorance.
Well,
That brother,
here's what I love what you did, man. You took it to the next level. And
yep.
I think many of us won't take it to the next level. What I mean by that is there's a behavior and there's an immediate consequence to that behavior. Say you engage, say you even yelled with him, right? Like there's a consequence, boss sees it, right?
Mhm,
Boss sees how you act. Maybe it escalates into something physical,
mhm,
right? Who knows what happens because it gets physical. Now maybe somebody else gets hurt. This could turn into lawsuit. This turns into other stuff. Now job is compromised. Oh, by the way, the boss still saw it and is talking about it. You know what
mhm.
I'm saying? You got to take it to the next level and the next level and the next level and say, is it worth it? But this is a skill when you say, Dr. Foster, like this is not,
Yeah.
you know, some of us may be a little more even keeled, but for a lot of us, I think this is a skill, this is a muscle that we have to build.
Yeah, you have to flex, you have to grow it, and you also have to decide what should you engage in.
Yeah.
I mean, that was not going to give my life any type of
Yeah. We're gonna
uplifting
help
to
you at all.
get into a fight with this man.
We're gonna
You
help
know,
you at all.
no, no, and this is something that I always try to teach, men, especially black men,
Yeah.
is to have one that self-awareness piece, but once you're aware that something's happening, control it.
Yeah.
Control it. When I tell you I was breathing heavy, I was breathing deep because I mean I was trying to keep it under control.
Right. Right.
But
Yeah. No,
we
man.
have to understand when that happens to the body, when we feel it, see that change happening, get it under control because you're getting ready to do something out of character.
How does emotional intelligence equate to success? How
Mm,
can this help us be successful in the workplace, successful in our career, successful in our businesses? Some people may not see the correlation between a high EQ.
mhm,
First of all, for those of you who are just watching, you need to go back and listen because Dr. Foster said, look, for those who have a higher EQ and emotional quotient intelligence, high emotional intelligence, they can make up to 30% more income. So that's just number one. I'm
mhm,
just talking, I'm just being real.
mhm.
Some of us are motivated by it, nothing wrong with that. It's okay. But how can this help us? Because I want to help provide value for somebody who's watching and be like, man, what's my incentive to really try to be more self-aware? What's my incentive to try to, be a little more self-regulating and be a little more empathetic towards people's problems and have these social skills that I can apply to make things, to build better relationships. How can this help us be more successful, Dr. Foster?
Sure, great question. It's if you think about that age-old saying we hear, you get things done more with honey than vinegar. It's the exact same thing in the work environment. If you are able to control those emotions, understand what are those things that make you upset, you can build relationships, you can get things done. Say, for example, say you get assigned a project, and this is a huge project, but because you have a high degree of emotional intelligence, you have built relationships across the system. So you can pick up the phone and call this person. And this person may be swamped, but because they know you and how you are, I'll help you get done what you need to get done. So
Yeah.
those kinds of things can help you be successful. We've all worked for leaders that we're like, well, Brad is he's a mediocre man, but everybody loves Brad.
Hmm.
That's how it helps us be successful. It helps us
Mm,
begin with those relationships and just having that self-awareness about how we come across and what we do when we interact with others.
yes.
But most importantly, in this day and age, when we think about empathy, some
Hmm.
people struggle with that. They think if I come to you and I'm crying, that I want you to sit and cry with me. No, I want you to create a brave space for me so I can be vulnerable and tell you what I'm doing, how I'm feeling, what the problem is.
Brave
So
space.
these things help you be successful. You get more things done with a high degree of emotional intelligence. You really do.
I'll tell you one of the things I see, man, is so let's go back to the story that you had on the airplane.
Yeah.
I think so much of creating success, and I'll define success as hitting a certain goal that you've set, whether it's financial, whether it's
Yeah.
in your career, whether it's in your faith, health, wealth, no matter even any of the 7 pillars that I was talking about before when the show
Yeah.
started. You know, if you go back to that airplane story, things can go south. And
Yeah.
so much of success
Hmm.
is avoiding
Hmm.
things that are going to take you off course.
Hmm.
I look at emotional intelligence as I'm learning about it from you now, is it allows me to uh, know the right things to say no to because I've got a little more clarity and discernment because I'm not letting things really get to me.
Hmm.
Um, I'd imagine that a high emotional intelligence probably correlates with a low stress level. Is what I'm only assuming that. I
Hmm.
mean, is
Hmm.
is there studies that show that?
Yeah, there
I'd,
are.
I'd imagine. So I mean, I notice, and I don't know if anybody's watching this notice, man, when you're in a high stress level, which is self-induced oftentimes because we don't know how to really react to certain things in life, and we might be just, we ain't gonna get into all that, but let's just say high stress. I cannot make decisions clearly.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't. And
Mm-hmm.
so this emotional intelligence allows me to say, okay, now I'm more aware of problems. I'm more aware of how I'm reacting. I'm more aware of my environment. And more importantly, me relative to my environment and the people who are around me, how I'm going to respond, being empathetic to other people and how I'm reacting to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, applying these social skills. I didn't even think about what you talked about in terms of success. We can't do life on our own. We
Mm-hmm.
need other people. And
Mm-hmm.
so having a high emotional intelligence allows you to build relationships where people will vouch for you, people will partner with you
Mm-hmm.
in order to be more successful. But I look at this idea of, dude, you avoided a massive bomb in
Yeah.
your life that could have happened from
Yeah.
there. So much of success is just avoiding the wrong things, saying no
Yeah.
to the wrong things, and having the clarity to be able to notice when the right thing is around and say yes to it.
Yeah. Exactly. As you were speaking, it just let's take it deeper. Let's go a little bit into
Mhm.
religion here. I think about when Jesus was arrested
Okay. Yes.
and the way he was beaten and treated. You
Mm.
know, Jesus said nothing.
Yeah, man.
Nothing.
You talk about some emotional.
Yeah. He had a mission. He had a goal. He was
Yes.
there to achieve it. He didn't fight back. He didn't do any. He could have did all that stuff because he had that power,
That's
but
right.
he did not do it. So why is it that we as humans,
Mm.
we're not perfect now? I mean, because once you understand emotional intelligence,
Yes.
and as you cultivate and grow that skill and go on in life, you should have more control over it. But you're still a human being, and there are some days that somebody may get you.
Sure.
So if our Father, our Christ, could do that,
Yes.
we can do our best to try to do that more ourselves to control our emotions and not react to the situation at hand.
Look, man, and I tell people this, man. I mean, if you look at the life of Jesus
Yeah.
as a leader, I mean, he was the consummate leader. I
Hmm.
mean, he was the consummate leader, man. He led with love.
Hmm.
He gave feedback that was true and honest.
Hmm.
He had influence because I think people saw that, particularly, the disciples saw he had their back.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't really ask them to do something that he wouldn't be willing to do himself. He led from the front.
Hmm.
Um, he built relationships.
Hmm.
I mean, you
Hmm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you look at his motivation was to do it not for himself,
Hmm.
but for his father, for God,
Hmm.
and never really allowed anything to shake him to the point to where he reacted uh, you know, unregulatory, I guess you could say, if you think about
Yeah.
the emotional intelligence stuff.
Hmm.
And if we could all be a little bit like Jesus, it's funny. My wife and I, we went to this comedy show, man, and this guy was talking about relationships, and he was like, in order for a relationship to work,
Hmm.
in order for a relationship to work between two people, somebody got to be like Jesus. And I was laughing, but I was like, how true is that? How true is that? We both looked at each other like, good thing I'm being like Jesus and not you, right? But but it's true.
Yeah.
Now, we're talking religious perspective, but if you just break down who Jesus was, we're saying somebody's got to be able to have a high emotional intelligence
Yeah.
if a relationship is going to work.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if both aren't, it's not gonna work.
That's correct. That's correct.
Um, man, as we land this plane, well, here's one last question. We talked about success. I think we've identified that a high emotional intelligence and being intentional about being more emotional intelligent can help you be more successful because of the relationships that you'll build. People will be more willing to partner with you, but you'll also make better decisions as a leader. And by
Yeah.
the way, I want you guys to understand this is not. You may think success, tangible success, money, career, maybe even some health goals, but I'm talking about even in as a leader in your household, uh,
Hmm.
as a leader amongst friends. Like this stuff is very important. But how can this help us be more fulfilled as well? Because on this show, one of the things I like to make sure and kind of touch upon is not just the things that we're successful at and hitting our goals, because we need to be fulfilled in life. How can this help us be more fulfilled? I've got some ideas, but I want to hear from you.
Yeah, we should, if we have a higher degree of emotional intelligence, we should be able to express ourselves.
Mm,
Be able to, whatever the challenges that we're facing, or those doubts, those down moments, whatever it is, we should be able to get those out. And what happens if we haven't cultivated that skill, we kind of suppress all of that.
mm,
And then that one day somebody puts their coffee cup on your desk, and
ooh,
there you go. You're
mm.
like, what's wrong with Brad? Where did this come from? Brad has not exercised or built that muscle where he has the ability to be vulnerable, to be open up and share with whoever it is he's having a challenge, whatever the problem is, or whatever. If we can grow that skill, not only can we build relationships, but we can also do the best for ourselves and be able to speak up and say what we need, what we're facing, what we're challenged with at the moment. That's the benefit to us. And from a stress perspective, again, if you've built that skill, you're able to get those things out versus holding on to them.
Yeah, man, I'm glad I was able to learn about emotional intelligence today. I'm afraid to take the test because it's probably gonna tell me I ain't emotionally intelligent. I'm gonna have to do it at some point. Um, Dr. Foster, if somebody's looking for more information, or maybe even looking to become more emotionally intelligent as a leader,
Mhm.
where can they find you?
You can reach out to my website, drexpose.net, or you can find me on LinkedIn, to send me an email. We can set up some time to have a conversation and get that assessment set up for you. It's about a 45-minute to an hour debrief because it can be a little deep.
Yeah.
Um, when you do take that assessment, I think about a quote from General Colin Powell in his book, It Worked for Me in Life and Also in Leadership. And he said
Mm,
in the book that always do your best. Even when no one else is looking, you're looking. So don't disappoint yourself. So when you take that assessment, be honest. No one else is looking. It's your thoughts, your feelings. If you want to improve yourself, take the assessment, respond to the questions as truthfully as possible, and then be open to the debrief about what are the next steps, what are the tips and tools you need to take and put into your toolkit so you can start to build and grow that skill.
yeah, man. And I'm gonna tell you guys, I mean, look, as someone who's had a coach who continues to get coached in multiple different areas of life, uh, sometimes these debriefings from coaches can be a tough pill to swallow, but they've been the best medicine. It's probably the best way I could put it. Tough pills to swallow, but have been the best medicine for me. Because sometimes we are self-aware, man, and we're in the picture too much to be able to see what's going on in our own frame. And we need somebody else who's an expert outside of us to be able to really identify some
Mhm,
of these mistakes that we're making, some of the things that we can't see.
mhm.
And the good thing about it is once you are aware of it and you got a plan of action, you can do better so that you can be better. So any final thoughts before we wrap up tonight?
I'll leave you with this.
Mhm.
As I shared earlier, that the self-regulation piece is, from my perspective, the hardest um, part of this process. When an individual presents that, yes, I know that this happens, really don't care. Having that self-talk with yourself to say, okay, if I don't care, what is the impact not only to others, but most importantly to myself, my career, my family?
Mm.
If you can answer those questions truthfully, then we can start to do the work. But if you can't really answer those questions and be honest about there is an issue, we can't get through the other three steps.
Mm. Mm. I like it, man. I like it. Once again, you guys, man, I hope you guys were taking notes. Man, sometimes I listen to the show. I'm like, man, this stuff is free. Seriously, man. I'm just telling you, man, between the number of conferences and coaching that I've got, man, I
Mhm.
need people to understand, boy, this is free value And I'm here primarily so that you can get this information so that you can succeed and work in life, so you can be the man that you have aspired to be, and not just be high achieving in one area,
Yeah.
but be elite in all areas. So Dr. Foster, thank you, my friend. Obviously,
Yes,
you and I are
sir.
going to be talking as we're collaborating on some pretty big things that we'll be letting the world know about over the course of the next several weeks. But listen, you guys, again, if you're watching right now, make sure you like and share this information. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not yet. And if you're on the replay, thanks for checking us out. Again, like and share this information. We hope you guys have a blessed week. We'll be back next week on Elite Performance with Dr. Brad with another great guest here to be able to help you prioritize your faith, optimize your performance, and pursue your purpose. We'll see you guys next week.